Good, you?
All right.
Hey, Steve.
Hi, Rick. Coach, obviously Johnson and Wales tomorrow, Thanksgiving, and then Yale. So
Thanksgiving?
Yeah, there's a holiday coming up.
Holiday?
Yeah,
Sure
so
feels
that-
joyous.
We do holidays during the
We do.
season? No?
No?
Yes, maybe?
College basketball does not.
Correct, right.
That is a fact. There is no holidays during college basketball. Well, first and foremost, digesting the weekend, I think, is the most important thing for any team. You have a lot of information. In our case, I felt like we played on a stage with really good teams, well coached, very difficult styles and personnel, and it gave us, real time adversity. And at times I thought we handled ourselves with resilience, and at times I thought you saw our immaturity, our lack of being there, done that, know how to grind it out, and kind of caved in at times. And I think that's a huge, piece to our program, huge piece to moving forward, is to continue to get our guys to understand how important, body language is and responding the right way. And like I said, at times we did. Very few times you get off to such a terrible start that we did against Northwestern, and you're right there with a 4-point game 7 minutes later. That doesn't happen often. But I thought just in general, we dealt with some styles, some programs, and some teams that really, really put it up against us where we were going to have to be really good, really, really good in certain areas. And we got exposed. And I think our youth was exposed. Our lack of being there, done that was exposed. But hopefully, like I said, from a humility standpoint, looking back a month from now, looking back 2 months from now, we're going to grow. And we have to do that. And I think this is an opportunity this week, starts with tomorrow, back on the floor, which is good. Have an opportunity to digest it, work today, work tomorrow in the game, and then, continue to progress. Obviously, Yale on the horizon on Sunday, which, in my opinion, may be the best team we've played to date.
I mean, you come in tomorrow against a Johnson and Wales team who may not necessarily bring that same level of competition. How do you approach that game?
It's about us. It really is. The accountability and the things that we've discussed are going to continue to discuss. Are we going to go out there and we're going to handle ourselves the right way? If not, regardless of the score or the outcome, we'll be disappointed. I think we got to grow up. We have to play a much, better style. But more importantly, we're looking for some things right now, especially defensively, that we've got to get better at. So it's an opportunity for us to really compete. And I think we would all be very disappointed if we're not ready to go in competing. But it's about us right now more so than anything that we could do. Regardless if we play Johnson and Wales or we were playing, Washington State again. I mean, it really is about us. You have to control your improvement. You have to control your mindset, what you're trying to do.
Coach, how did the players react to the 2 games? Get back to the practice floor yesterday.
Well, I think in any situation, if you're not disappointed and you're not down about the end result, you as a staff would have to question, what's going on. I think we had a down group. I think we had a deflated group. And I think we were disappointed. We expected to play better. I don't think by any stretch did anyone in our program go to Mohegan and feel like we would be overwhelmed at times, which we were physically. I think that was the number one thing that stood out was our lack of physicality. Sometimes it's youth. Sometimes it's maybe experience with your style and how you want to play. But in a lot of ways, the other team dictated how those games went with physicality, whether it was size inside, rebounding, physicality defensively, cuts. We were not the aggressor in those games. And I think part of it you can attribute to a realization of where we are, and part of it you can attribute to, you just don't know what you don't know right now. And but, like I said before, you have to be able to control what you can. And the progress of our team and our program with this group is important to us. The development of this team is important to us. We have to get better, and we have to position ourselves to play our best basketball each month as we keep going. So we've moved on, and I think it's really about an opportunity today in practice to reset, set yourself down and get going again.
In that Sunday game, you made a nice adjustment to get Louis isolated and get him a lot of great opportunities, and then they went zone on you.
Yeah.
kind of neutralize things. Do you anticipate other teams seeing that, and you see more zone as you go on?
Yeah, I think so. I think, number one, Washington State and Kyle Smith has a renowned way of playing defensively. If you study the game, if you study programs, they go to that at times. And I think one of their great gifts with that zone that they have is the enormous size from 2 through 5. They're 6'6", 6'8", 6'7", and then inside it's 7 foot and 6'10". So, like, their ability level to protect the rim in that zone and match up when the ball would get into the paint is something that you got to see a few times to be able to do it. With that being said, I thought we had a few possessions in there that were pretty good. They made good plays around the basket. We missed an open shot. But the zone really, really took the steam out of the opportunity to stay in the game. Definitely did. I think Louis is way more comfortable around the basket, and we're learning him. He's learning how to play. He's not shooting a great field goal percentage right now, and I think part of that is he's trying to figure out how to be himself. One of the unique things about him is, though, he's a very crafty player in and around the basket. We have to be able to utilize his strengths a little bit more moving forward, whether he's playing point guard or he's playing with another guy. But definitely I think Louis started to make his mark in and around the basket and find different ways out there. So we have to continue to kind of build that for him.
When you're dealing with the real-time adversity like you did this weekend, Archie, how much does it help to have a guy that has experience and seems to be growing as a leader in Zeke Montgomery?
Yeah, I mean, Zeke was a bright spot in terms of individual play in that game. I think you saw Zeke, he competed, and I thought without question he looked like he belonged. He was very, very fearless. And again, we're learning how to play with smaller lineup, bigger lineup, and at times our best way of playing in those games was to get a little bit more spread out with our lack of front court production. And I think Zeke really, really gives us a unique player in that regard. But I'm proud of Zeke the way he played. I also know he can still grow and get a lot better for our team. Defensive rebounding is a big weakness for us. Off-ball defense is a big weakness for us right now. And I think he's playing a lot of minutes as well. And I think there's some times out there where he's standing around too much. So we have to find a way to maybe spell him a little bit more through games. But Zeke was a bright spot. Like I said, proud of his effort, proud of his mentality in these games, and hopefully he can build on that, because I think he showed that obviously he's one of the better players in the country, in all regards right now.
He's seen it because he's played in the NIT and he's played against teams like Wisconsin, who
Right.
are, power conference type teams. So mentally, maybe he was in a place where he was going to be able to go out and play well in those games. How do you get that across to guys who maybe haven't been in those?
They got to do it. They got to do it.
Right.
I think part of success is failure, not only for groups, programs, but individuals. And I think part of becoming a better player is learning the ropes, going through some tough times and getting yourself back up, getting more experience. I can't give David Fuchs, Jeremy, Always. You can't give them experience. And you saw different levels of struggle this past weekend with those guys being, really first-time guys on that stage, maybe third or fourth college game of their careers in many cases. So at times we would have 3 or 4 of those guys on the floor at the same time. So I don't expect it to be perfect, but I also don't expect it to stay the same.
Have you seen anything from a leadership standpoint, especially this past weekend with the guys that haven't had that experience? Zeke, speaking of,
I think just in general, I think one big disappointment is I think you can read our body language in games when things are going good and bad. Whether it's a referee's call, whether it's a missed shot or whatever it is, or whether a team goes on a run. I think we have a tendency to be very immature at times. I've said this in the past about our group. We're an immature group. We have to learn to be able to move on to the next play, and we have to do that good and bad. And that's a big, big growing process for our team. But I do think we have, coming out of that, we have some guys really starting to earn the right to speak more, earn the right to obviously, have some credibility as we're starting to get through, big games. Zeke's really come on in the last 3 or 4 weeks. Early in the season, he was very reserved. I think we need Louis. And we need guys like Jaden to, improve in that area as well. But it's a work in progress. I hate to say it, but we're not a finished product by any stretch. There's room for guys to grab roles, develop roles, lose roles. We're sort of in that mode. But I think we are hunting older guys right now. We are hunting guys that have some experience in college to be, more of the sounding board in good and bad times. it'll be fun to watch our team continue to grow up in that way.
You talked about gave you a great weekend, especially on Saturday, but really both days. Is his emergence coming a little sooner than you thought on the schedule?
Cam did a nice job this weekend. I think he showed that he's much different than just a shooter. He can really handle the ball for us. He can pass, and he's an aggressive scoring mentality. He's got a good body on him, and he really helped us in game one. And he was out there in game two. We have to find more opportunities for him with groupings, playing with different sets of guys that maybe he hasn't played with yet. I think that's big. We also have to develop. Brandon coming off of an injury, we've got to get him back in the groove. We have to find a way to Josephat and Connor. How do they fit into this? Because I think both can help us. So we're still kind of working through that. I think it'll take on a life of its own in terms of the course of a season, how different guys step up and play. But I'm very confident in our freshman class. There's 4 of them really: Jeremy, David, Connor, and Cam. All 4 of them good players. They all have a chance to really help our team. And maybe at different stretches of the season that they get their opportunities. But I think you saw David, who we really count on, have a tough weekend. I think you saw Cam, who emerged. Maybe we can count on him a little bit more, have a pretty good weekend. But I think with young guys, you just want to keep those guys developing. Confidence is a great thing, and we have to keep them all confident as we keep going.
You've talked about the coachability with this group. When you have moments like this, how much do you feel like you can really improve and see the growth that you feel like you can see from this team?
Well, I think like I said earlier, sometimes you don't know what you don't know. So now that you know some things, you have to really kind of put that in the forefront. And it's an awareness thing, it's accountability, it's a standard that you can't resort back. We have to, we learned that hard lesson. Let's not let that happen again. And I think we have, as a coaching staff, me as a coach, the demanding part of things is moving us away from that stuff and getting us focused in on more of that. But I think just the biggest thing right now with our team, if you ask me what's the number one thing right now that concerns you, is team defense. I think when you play 2 really different teams this weekend, but very good teams, good competition, good coaches, different styles, you look at your team defense and say, can you stack up? And I don't think defensively we can stack up right now. We have to get there. System-wise, familiarity, effort, physicality, toughness. That's where right now we're not anywhere near where we're going to have to get. And we're going to have to grow quickly in the next 3, 4, 5 weeks as we head towards Christmas and into conference play to be ready.
Archie, any updates on Bilal or Green?
First, Josephat has been cleared for all basketball-related activities. We'll see how that goes. I think Josephat can help us. He plays hard. He's smart. He got an opportunity last year to get going before he was sidelined, and I thought he did some nice things. He's worked extremely hard to put himself in a position to be back right now. We always have targeted post-Mohegan Sun for his return in terms of being able to be cleared for everything. So that is a positive for us now. How does that all look? Don't know yet, but I do think that Josephat can help our team. More physical, bigger, effort level plays, smart. So I think we can, add to our depth a little bit with an older, bigger, stronger guy. And Josephat's pretty skilled. I think the one thing about him is he brings us another guy in the front court who can shoot the ball a little bit, space the floor a little bit. But defensively, he can help us. David Green's still in this waiver process, and, it's disappointing. I don't want to be the coach that sits here on the soapbox and you just kind of look out there and you wonder, how certain circumstances and things change for certain guys week by week, and, his situation kind of stays the same. So we've done a good job with our administration. Our administration's done a really good job, and David's been very patient. We have no final details, so we continue to plan accordingly. I think we're all hopeful, but we all have the reality of maybe it's not going to happen. And we'll do our best to continue to make him a part of what we're doing. He's an unquestioned leader, in particular with his voice. But I also tell you this, that he may be our best overall player as well. And so there's a positive there. There's a guy in our program that can really continue to make us better every day here or whenever that time comes when he does hit the floor.
In Josephat's case, being fully cleared, what does that mean in terms of maybe when we might see him in a game?
My hope would be tomorrow. You know,
Really?
I mean, he's practiced on a gradual basis all the way through. He's not in game shape by any stretch of the imagination, but I don't anticipate him having to play 35 minutes. And I also think now it's going to get a little bit more serious for him in terms of his role in practice and understanding, you know, what he has to do. Could Josephat play Wednesday, you know, in spot minutes and get a window here and there? He possibly could. How that all looks with the rotation and whatnot, I think that's, you know, the tricky thing. We just played a ton of minutes. But I also tell you this, we played a ton of minutes, and we could have really used another front court player, you know, that we feel could really maybe bounce back and forth, play some four, play some center, give us a better rebounder, maybe a better defender at times. So we just going to have to figure that out. And I think part of it as a coaching staff is what groups play together well, and what's the rotation kind of look like. Would you like to go, you know, with two bigs more? Or would you like to go with one big? Who's that big in there with the small guys? I don't know. So it's tricky when you have a guy that's adding to the mix, but Joe's smart. And I think whatever we ask him to do, he'll be able to handle.
Any final questions?
All good?
Thank you.
All right, happy Thanksgiving, everybody.
Thanks,
You
Coach.
guys have a good